Hello. Yeah, it's been a long time. Anyway, today, for my little welcome back video, I am posting the top 5 most powerful exotic weapons. Trying to choose my words carefully here, so I'm using the word powerful. Not highest DPS, not highest burst, not highest potential damage or anything like this. The overall top 5 weapons that are systematically, objectively better in a variety of different situations. Now, to test these, I did put their statistics into a spreadsheet with their hypothetical perfect situation. I did this with basically every exotic weapon, and there was a clear margin between a few of them and the rest. So this is not going to be people's favourite exotics. So if your favourite exotic or your favourite weapon isn't on this list, not sorry, I'm not looking for people's favourites. I was trying to find what is statistically the most powerful exotics weapon wise in the game, and as far as I can currently tell, minus a few outliers, this is it. So in at number 5 we have Le Pestilence. It's French now, it's Le Pestilence. No idea why it's French. Pestilence, although stats wise, its weapon damage, its RPM, its reload, and magazine size is pretty much standard for an LMG, but overall its RPM mixed with its actual damage and its bullet for bullet DPS is really low. What sets this weapon aside and why it's on this list is the debuff on it, Plague of the Outcasts. It is honestly a disgusting talent, and I love it. The amount of damage that Plague of the Outcasts is completely capable of on Pestilence is just silly. It's almost like having a LMG and a rifle shooting the same target at the same time. For example, this named elite, I've barely shot him. Just Plague of the Outcast has gone on to him. I've maybe put about 20 bullets into him, and he's just dead now. I put barely 20 bullets. I'd actually say 20 bullets was generous, but he is just dead. Don't care anymore, he is gone, because Plague of the Outcasts is ridiculous. There's a variety of different ways in which you are able to bolster Plague of the Outcasts, but I would genuinely argue it's not really even needed, just because of how stupid it is. Now, being that Le Pestilence is an LMG, it does come with its own set of drawbacks. 1, reload time. 2, the horrifically inaccurateness of which now a word, of the weapon at range. And then the final problem, which I'm pretty damn sure everyone struggles with that has an LMG, particularly if you are using it in a group, and that is suppressed, and suppressed. Luckily, as long as you get a few good hits on them anyway, Pestilence will still continue to damage suppressed enemies because, again, Plague of the Outcasts. However, it does still have its problems. In close-knit groups, especially if you're able to basically spray and pray, Pestilence is near enough unmatched in I'm just going to go kill that entire group of people. I say near enough unmatched because, well, the king of doing that is actually the Regulus, but not everyone has the capability or the friends or whatever to get through the raid. So your next best bet is Le Pestilence, and the results kind of speak for themselves. Overall, it is kind of feels a bit like a clunky weapon, especially at range. You can see the struggle, me trying to just ping that guy. And depending on how you build it, you kind of end up locking yourself into position. I am using Sawyer's knee pads just because of Sawyer's knee pads plus Pestilence is just ridiculous. The overall output of just Sawyer's knees built an entire striker's build with Pestilence. Figure that one out. Well, I know exactly why, but yeah. essentially, if you're running Strikers and Pestilence, then there's something wrong with you, because literally just adding Sawyer's knees does more damage than Strikers can. It's just hilarious. The reason behind this is, at minimum, depending on your build and how you've worked it, 42% of your damage output from Pestilence is just purely Plague of the Outcasts. There are builds where you can do like 80% of the damage output is Plague of the Outcasts, etc, etc. And there are varying different ways in which you can buff Plague of the Outcasts. Typically it's just pure weapon damage, because it can't crit or anything else. However, there are some stats and effects and multipliers in the game that will not affect Plague of the Outcasts, Strikers being one of them. So, yeah. That's why you don't run Strikers with Pestilence. Just saying it outright. But anyway, Pestilence itself is an absolutely ridiculously, stupidly strong LMG. And it's probably one of the 3 or 4 LMGs that are actually generally worth it, but this is definitely the absolute top pick, just because of how much damage potential it has. Because of Plague of the Outcasts as well, you can pretty much, with varying results, some obviously being stronger than others, but you can pretty much slot Pestilence into any build. I used to run Pestilence with my healer build for a good while before Scorpio came out, just because it actually offered significant damage, and sometimes being able to suppress an enemy keeps you alive. So that was Pestilence coming in at number 5, and well, it's not going to be everyone's top pick to even put in a top 5, but hey ho, there we go. Coming in at number 4 is everyone's favourite headshot monster, Nemesis. And I say that because I actually did test this weapon. I don't even have a build for it. The build I am currently running, which I'm hoping just exacerbates the point I'm about to make. This is actually a pistol build, a headshot pistol build that I have on. I've just put Nemesis on it, and I'm still very much capable of hitting 30 million damage on a headshot and just picking things off. This is where Nemesis excels. The main thing I don't like about Nemesis, before people get weird, is 1, I'm terrible with snipers in this game. So it's not just Nemesis, it's most sniper rifles, but it's the charge up. So I feel like if you're in an active, more close-knit combative environment, due to Nemesis's charge up, I really struggle. That's a me thing. That's nothing against the weapon. That's just, I'm bad at sniping, and I'm even worse with Nemesis. Luckily, I feel like I've managed to get some decent-ish footage of me using Nemesis. If not, I was going to have to bother our clan leader to be like, can you send me some Nemesis footage, please? But anyway, this one's pretty damn short and sweet. Why is this in the top 5? Well, quite simply because even with a semi-decent-ish build, you don't even need anything special. You can near enough one-shot your way through the game with a moderate amount of skill, because you are literally just picking off headshots. There's 26 mil, and then just pop this guy in the head here. Boom, it's 30 mil. You know, this doesn't really need too much of an explanation as to why Nemesis is in the top 5 most powerful exotics. And for some of these exotics, I would say that if you want to argue it and like opinions, they vary, that's fine. But if you don't think that Nemesis should be in the top 5, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, coming in at number 3, and speaking of people's opinions, Ravenous. Why Ravenous? Well, there is actually really only one simple reason for this, and I can't demonstrate it because I like doing at least 99% of my videos solo, just so that you can clearly see how varying weapons and the builds work without having to potentially line other players as a crutch. Ravenous. It's not too great in open world. You are generally better off using, I kind of want to say any other rifle, but that would be a complete lie. In terms of overall DPS, just shot for shot, straight up DPS, Ravenous is actually the highest DPS rifle in the game. It also has its unique ability to self-buff itself through additive and multiplicative damage. The additive is kind of not really a buff. When shooting from the right shoulder, you put 2 primers into a target, and when you swap to the left, you detonate those primers. Each primer, up to 10, will do 100% weapon damage. This means that you are basically able to proc up to like a 10 million damage shot, depending on your build, obviously. I actually have a pretty decent DPS build with what I'm running here. This is my open world Ravenous build, and it performs pretty damn well as an open world weapon. I would be better off, and this would be easier if I was using an M1A, correct, will not argue that. However, why is Ravenous on this list? Have you ever watched a speedrun? Ever wondered how those players in speedruns one-shot the raid bosses doing 200 mil, 300 mil, 400 mil? The highest I've seen is 812 million damage on a shot. Well, there are varying different buffs and mechanics involved, but the absolute crutch of all of those mechanics is this weapon. You're also using Dodge City holster, which is beside the point, and the damage is actually put in place by a pistol because of the way Dodge City holster works, but all of the buffs and the mechanic involved around it is literally just this weapon. Ravenous as well is pretty much unmatched in destroying chungers because of how its talent works. Again, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I still see people asking and questioning and whatnot. The Ravenous buff for the amplified damage to armor plating, which is starting on the left shoulder, moving to the right and getting the bonus armor, the little blue armor. While that is active, you will get amplified damage to armor plating. That isn't the armor bars you can see above these enemies. That is not armor plating, that is just armor. I'm aware it probably sounds confusing, armor plating, armor, but armor plating is chungers, the warhounds. Hyena rushers, their helmet, that's armor plating. The heavy weapons guys from True Sons that lay on the floor with the LMG, their helmet, that's armor plating. Razorback from Dark Hours, armor plating. The shields, that hyenas, Rikers, are there any other shield enemies? Can't think. That is all armor plating. Now, weirdly, I don't know why, but armor plating scales with health damage. So the 3-piece Walker Harris, Hollow Man, the named Jarl Mask, that they will provide damage to health, and that is how Ravenous essentially works. Against armoured targets, I personally typically start on the right shoulder and then move to the left to proc the damage primers that explode. It's not one explosion, it's depending on how many stacks you've put up, and then they can also crit. So if you actually have a high crit chance and you can get all of them to crit, you're able to do some seriously obtuse numbers. I can't believe I used the word obtuse there, that's weird. Anyway, Ravenous itself is actually extremely powerful, if not a little bit clunky and annoying to use. As much as I like this weapon, and absolutely I've put it on this list, I will not deny that it is 100% a ball ache, and kind of gets annoying with the whole swapping shoulder things. And then depending on where you've positioned yourself, whether through pressure or just momentary lapse of judgment, and you've put yourself in a silly bollocks area, you are not always able to swap shoulders. Swapping shoulders, 1, maximizes the weapon's output, 2, also offers survivability. Bonus armor is bonus armor, right? It helps. So yeah, it's not the most comfortable weapon ever to use. Even the speedrunners that basically have to use this weapon on repeat all day, not every day or all day, but you get my meaning, a lot. they use this weapon a lot. Typically argue that this weapon really only serves one purpose, and that is to provide them with their buffs, just because using it in the open world, one, there are pretty much better options. M1A, CQB, Virginian, and 1886. All of these are pretty damn decent, better options to use in open world, all with their own ups and downs, but typically will outperform a Ravenous in the open world, which is a perfectly fine statement to have or put out there. However, when it comes to absolute max potential of the power of this weapon, even in open world, it really is hard to deny. It's not the most comfortable weapon. It is not the most useful weapon in any scenario. You can't really put this weapon on any build. You can't sort of be like, oh, I'm running a tank, I'll use Ravenous. Oh, I'm running a DPS, I'll use Ravenous. You kind of have to build it for its exact specific needs and requirements to really get this weapon to shine. And if you don't, it basically falls short. I feel that the closest anyone's ever actually come, it's a bragging moment, me with this build, simply because of how I have built around the weapon rather than with the actual information, rather than going, oh, it does armor. No, it doesn't. Still, it's not my favourite build to run. This is typically a build I like to run when I'm in a group, particularly on Legendary, just because I will chew through those chungas like you've never seen someone chew through a chunga before. Will absolutely annihilate them very, very quickly. Full stacks against a chunga, I do about 5 million damage a bullet, and I'm doing 2 bullets a shot, so I'm hitting about 10 million damage a shot. And it also explodes. On average, I can kill a chunga in 12 bullets on Legendary, on 4-man group. So yeah, again, very, very niche, will not argue that, but the absolute power of this weapon cannot be denied. And even if it is just for those two very niche things, one-shotting raid bosses and burning chungas like they have no idea what's going on. I'm making really bad analogies today, I do apologise. This weapon is just, it's stupid. The absolute raw power of it is mind-boggling. I would actually say it is categorically #1 most powerful weapon in the game, but I can't put it at #1 just because of how niche it is, and I didn't want to put it at #5 because the power of it is just stupid. So coming in at second place, and I'm pretty sure most people would see this coming, it's good old Regulus, the headshot monster, the pièce de résistance. I don't know what it is with my French today. I suck at French as well. If you are French, I really do apologise. This is probably like insulted your entire country by now, and I humbly apologise. Anyway, Regulus is shot for shot, even though it's only got a 6-round magazine, including the reload, is the second highest DPS weapon in the game. Like, statistically from the off, and I'm not talking about how the game calculates DPS, I'm talking about how a real human that has a brain calculates DPS, because this game does not calculate DPS properly, which is mental. Yeah, the damage climb of Regulus is absolutely stupid. A lot of people don't like this weapon because you've got to hit your headshots. No, you don't. It rewards you for hitting your headshots with a massive explosion, doing silly bollocks damage and causing bleed to anything that was unlucky enough to survive. But overall, this weapon is just stupid. It does some serious damage. Terms of burst, DPS, sustain, the lot. This weapon is just unreal. And then if you get a little bit decent with headshots and build around that, you can literally just become a one-shot explosive headshot demon, and you feel like God. Like, you honestly just Downsides to this weapon are: 1, it is a pistol; 2, it's got a 6-round magazine. Typically, if you are building it for the headshot side of things, if you don't hit your headshots, then the weapon isn't that great. But you can just build it for crit chance, crit damage, and run a crit build with it. It works perfectly just the same. You're not as reliant on getting those headshots if you build it for crit, and it will absolutely do some seriously magnificent damage per shot. It just also means you don't have to hit the headshots. Obviously, hitting the headshots is lovely, and we all do love seeing that massive boom. It is so satisfying. However, it's not required. It 100% is not required, and I kind of get a little bit bored and annoyed with people who be like, oh, but if you've got Regulus, you have to hit headshots. No, you don't. In terms of overall output, it will outperform a FAMAS. It will outperform an M1A. You just have a smaller mag, so you end up reloading more often. But overall, Regulus, absolutely hunky-dory. Should definitely be on this spot, and it is a gloriously magnificent weapon. Another downside to it is obviously trying to get the darn thing in the first place, because it is a raid project exclusive, so you can only get it from completing the project that you only get from doing the Iron Horse raid. Yeah, that can be, of course, le problème. I'm doing the French thing again, I am sorry. But yes, Regulus, absolutely stupidly powerful, high DPS. If you're not running an exotic main or secondary weapon, having your sidearm as Regulus is pretty much always the way to go, unless you're using the card TDI custom for the skill tier. Potentially could be using the Orbit like I do with Dod City, just to help bolster your crit chance and crit damage for certain varying situations, etc, etc. Anyway, time to do some lovely honourable mentions, because we love honourable mentions, don't we? Well, I say honourable mentions, just other things that were noticed on the data that I collected, as well as what other people that I asked also said. Now, the first one, and honestly, I personally believe this weapon is, I don't want to say terrible, but it's not exactly up there. However, considering the weight behind the person that said this, and if he ever watches this, he'll definitely know, and probably a few other people as well, but Lady Death was mentioned. Now, personally, I do not rate Lady Death at all. I'm aware some people like it, and from the stats that I put through on the perfect scenario for each weapon that I ran, it didn't perform too well. Its overall burst, because of the amplified damage from its talent, is pretty damn good. The biggest issue with this weapon is it's only got a 32 round magazine. If you double load it, or chambering, whatever people want to call it, it can go to 33. However, at 900 RPM, you completely empty your mag in about 2.13 seconds. That's from full to empty. And then the reload on it is a staggering 1.62, and that is assuming the only reload buff you actually have is from your SHD watch. So if you're not at level SHD 1000, your reload will be higher. To put this into perspective, roughly, if you spend 10 seconds firing, you are spending 8.42 seconds reloading. That is a massive downtime in you not doing damage, and it's simply because of that that I do not rate Lady Death. Its initial mechanic, its RPM, its damage is great. What kills it is the combination of its RPM and its small mag. But still, the person that suggested Lady Death has some serious knowledge, capability and reputation behind them, so it is getting mentioned, because if this person is saying Lady Death is that damn powerful, then I believe them, and it's probably just my own personal opinion, thoughts and feelings getting in the way. Another honourable mention is Chameleon. I was actually quite surprised when this one came up more than a few times with people mentioning it. Overall, as an AR, I don't really feel it's up there, simply because of the weapon's accuracy. There are a variety of different builds that make absolutely magnificent use of Chameleon, and I will not deny that. When you are at full buff, the thing does wreck like a monster if you are capable and able to play at close range, depending on the build and how you're utilising the weapon itself. However, if you typically try and play it as a normal AR, which I kind of feel like is one of the biggest issues with that weapon, or people with that weapon as they try and play like an AR, it falls very much short. That doesn't obviously go against the power of the weapon at all. The power for that weapon, the Chameleon, is absolutely there. I just personally felt that the other weapons on this list, and from the stats that I found, performed higher. If I did top 6, Chameleon would probably be in top 6. Or potentially the other honourable mention, which is the Capacitor. The Capacitor is a bit weird. I still can't quite figure this weapon out. It's a very good damaging weapon. It's got damage to armor, damage to health, pretty high overall base damage, as well as a decent-ish RPM. The magazine size is a little bit to leave desired, but then this is always a problem with exotics, is you can't customize them, but that's part of the whole exotic charm. However, its talent is based purely around skills. However, the attachments on the weapon, where it comes at with base 10% crit chance, so if you're maxed out on your SHD watch, you've now got 20% crit chance, and 30% crit damage. Again, with your watch, that's 40% crit damage just from base. For me, in my head, that makes no sense. It truly is a weapon that is hybrid through and through, and probably does deserve a placement on this list. The only issue I have with it is, for a weapon that is hybrid, such as Chameleon, I kind of feel like you should be able to slot it into any and all builds, but you can't. It typically will go in a DPS build where you are running a few damaging skills just to try and get a little bit more out of them, or a skill build where you're just wanting to get a little bit more, 1 out of your skills, 2 out of you shooting something. So I don't want to say it's niche, but it definitely feels a lot more limited than it really should be. Anyway, let's go for number 1, shall we? It's Bullet King! I am absolutely 100% joking. It's 100% Scorpio, which for me is actually a bit of disappointment, just because, oh my god, how predictable. But sorry, if you thought Scorpio isn't going to be on this list, then yeah, and if you thought Scorpio is definitely not going to be number 1, then Scorpio is, it's not the hardest hitting shotgun. I believe that goes to the MH70 or the Super something or other, the Super, it's not the hardest hitting. It's second in hardest hitting shotgun. However, first shot poisons them, which makes up for that DPS. Third shot confuses them, which helps you stay alive. Sixth shot shocks them. That was like 5 edits to try and go 6th shot shock. That was annoying. 7th shot provides basically a 20% damage buff. It's essentially opportunistic but doubled. The enemy that takes all 7 shots will take 20% more damage from all sources. the weapon itself is just a damn monster. It's got good fire rate, good reload. It hits like an absolute beast. You're able to do some amazing builds with it because of where it applies status, and for the simple fact that it is just so damn powerful. Running a tank build, use a Scorpio. Running a medic build, use a Scorpio. Running a DPS build, use a Scorpio. Hell, there is even a joke among certain communities that the Scorpio is the best sniper rifle in the game because the damn thing is just bonkers. It's kind of a little bit annoying that it is just so overtuned compared to every other weapon in the game, but then at the same time, when you want to feel like God, you need the touch of a god, and Scorpio is just that. It's pure beast mode in a weapon. You don't even need a build, just use Scorpio, which again kind of is a little bit annoying because it is just that damn powerful. But screw it, Scorpio, having a tough day, get on Division, grab your Scorpio, go full He-Man, Thundercats and Power Rangers on some hyenas, and yeah, get really annoyed because disorient bullet, but then, you know, could always just turn the directives off. Anyway, that is pretty much my top 5 most powerful exotics. Like I said, try to do this like from a statistical standpoint of what their max capability actually is in the perfect scenario. It's kind of hard to completely demonstrate that while just running around like a lunatic. Anyway, that is me. I am Dodd. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'm signing out now. Have fun, good luck, and don't die. It's bad for the health.